The ashtray is piled high with ash, layer upon layer, like miniature graves no one bothers to mourn, each one burying a moment squandered in vain. I pinch the last crumpled cigarette from the pack, light it up. The flame flickers, briefly illuminating the deep lines etched at the corners of my eyes, a map I've carved into my own life, every line leading to this moment's ruins. The room's dark, no lights on, just the faint, cold glow from the small phone screen in my hand, like the eternal lamp in a morgue, tirelessly casting light on my lifeless face. On the screen, a soccer match plays out. Somewhere on the planet, I don't even know where, red and green numbers and odds flashing wildly, like an exposed, convulsing heart. I stare at it, eyes locked in desperate focus, like a drowning man clinging to a fleeting straw on the water's surface. On the table beside me sits a bowl of instant noodles, the strands long gone soggy, soaked in greasy red broth, slumped at the bottom like a dead scarlet snake. I can't recall when I made it. Yesterday? This morning? Time's lost its usual measure for me, blurred into a thick, chaotic sludge. Only the moments of the final whistle, the betting results, the instants that seal my fate, they're the only sharp coordinates in this mess. Yet, not even 5 years ago, my time was measured by the crisp ring of the school bell. Back then, my name was Caleb Blackwood. My fingers were always dusted with white chalk, carrying the clean scent of ink and knowledge settled into old books. I was the best history teacher at our town's top high school, teaching honors and AP classes to the brightest minds, kids with futures that seemed limitless. I loved the 4:30 p.m. sunlight, slanting perfectly through the classroom's tall windows, bathing my desk and the worn wooden floor in gold. Standing in that warm glow, I'd feel a near-sacred satisfaction. I'd lecture with passion about the fierce debates behind the First Amendment, paint the despair and hope in the eyes of soldiers at Normandy, or dissect the suffocating balance of terror between the US and USSR during the Cold War. I'd talk about the American dream, that once dazzling, later questioned ideal. When I got carried away, seeing those clear, trusting eyes in the front row, full of faith in the future, I'd think, this is it. I found my place, my purpose. My wife, Ilana, was the head nurse at the town hospital, a woman as precise as her profession yet brimming with compassion. Her hands could perform complex medical procedures, soothe a patient's pained brow, or comfort me when work left me drained. Our son, Silas, was in my AP US history class, a quiet, brilliant kid, his thoughts deeper than most his age, his report card always near the top. I felt a mix of fatherly pride and teacherly restraint. Our life was like a finely bound novel. Steady plot, warm narrative, every chapter predictably good. Weekends, we'd pile into our old but trusty Volvo wagon for short trips to the nearby mountains. Ilana would rest her head on my shoulder, sunlight catching her light brown hair, giving off a soothing blend of shampoo, warmth, and her own scent. Silas sat in the back, sometimes lost in his indie music through earbuds, other times buried in a thick fantasy novel. The car hummed with a quiet, warm vibe, a happiness woven from unspoken love, unshakable trust, and countless ordinary moments. I believed that was life's essence, as certain and eternal as the Earth's rotation. But it all came crashing down, starting with a single cheerful ding of an electronic alert. It was an ordinary Sunday night, me on the couch with a beer, watching an NFL game. At halftime, an ad for a betting app, FanDuel I think, flashed across the screen, all bright colors and fast cuts, promising new users $100 in risk-free bets. I scoffed. As an educated man who valued reason, I saw it as just another lottery, a trap for the gullible. I grabbed my phone, scrolled through news. But the next day, in the faculty lounge, Frank, the physics teacher who shared my office, bragged about his betting wins. With that free $100, he'd pulled off a wild 3-team parlay and scored a brand new MacBook. "Caleb, it's like physics," he said, waving his phone with a smug grin. "Study the data, team form, injuries, even weather. It's a game of probability and info, not luck." That afternoon, the sunlight outside was still warm, but I couldn't focus on grading papers. Frank's words planted a seed, a delayed fuse bomb in my mind. I'm a history teacher. My career's built on finding patterns in chaos, tracing causes and effects. Wasn't this just another intellectual challenge? Could I, a proud honors teacher, really be outdone by a guy teaching Newton's laws? That night, with Ilana and Silas asleep and the house filled only with the fridge's low hum, I sat in my dark study, wrestling with myself. Curiosity, competitiveness, and a faint boredom with my predictable life won out. I downloaded the app. The sign-up took minutes, disturbingly easy. I used the $100 credit, not on familiar football, but on an obscure Australian cricket match, detached enough to feel like a data analyst, not a fan betting on a whim. I spent half an hour poring over team stats like they were academic papers, then placed my bet. I told myself it was a one-time experiment, win or lose. Waiting for the result, I felt a thrill I hadn't known since waiting for college acceptance letters. When the match ended and my phone dinged again, The screen showed my $100 had turned into $950. My heart clenched, then released, a rush of blood to my head. It wasn't about the money. Less than $1,000 was just a grocery run for us. It was the feeling, a dizzying illusion that my sharp mind and cool analysis had beaten the system, predicted the future. The adrenaline, the raw satisfaction, it hit harder than publishing a paper or seeing a student's epiphany. That night, without a sound, I opened a door to hell. At first, I built a fortress of logic around it. This wasn't gambling, it was alternative asset management, an intellectual game of math and behavioral psychology. I dove in like I was prepping for my doctoral exams. My study became a war room. I subscribed to premium sports data services, European and Asian sports news. My computer was littered with spreadsheets tracking team efficiencies, player injuries, even referee tendencies. I tried to crack the future's code with history and stats. Ilana would come in with hot milk or sliced apples, gently asking what I was working on. I'd hit a shortcut key, swapping odds and betting lines for an obscure historical document site, and tell her I was digging for rare Civil War sources. She never doubted me, just touched the back of my head with a worried smile, urging me to rest. Her hands, warm with the faint scent of hospital disinfectant and latex gloves, were the mark of her healing profession and our stable home. But she didn't know the cold, calculating storm brewing inside me after she left. I won, and for a while I won big, feeding my delusion that I was a genius, a financial prodigy stuck behind a high school lectern. My biggest haul came on a random Tuesday night, a wild 16 parlay across the NBA, European Champions League, and Brazilian Serie A. Overnight, my account jumped from a few grand to over $80,000, nearly my annual take-home pay. I shook with excitement, but bit my fist in the silent study, afraid to wake my sleeping wife and son. The unshareable joy and the crushing loneliness of my deceit twisted into a strange, addictive poison. I couldn't tell anyone where the money came from, yet I burned to prove those digital winnings meant something real. The next day, I called in sick, drove to a luxury mall in the next state, and bought Ilana a diamond necklace she'd once eyed in a magazine, calling it too crazy. Her stunned, disbelieving joy when she saw the blue gift box made me feel like a god. She hugged me, voice trembling, asking how. I spun my first big lie. An old college roommate, now a Silicon Valley success, had given me early shares in his startup as thanks for past help. The company was bought out, and this was my small cut. The lie was perfect, explaining the money and stroking my ego. Ilana believed me, proud of me. From that cold, glittering necklace, my life veered off its steady course, paved with lie after lie. One lie needs 10 bigger ones to cover it. A brutal, unbreakable rule. When luck, or probability, reverted to its cold mean, I started losing, and I lost faster than I'd ever won. To plug the holes in my account, to keep up the investment genius facade, my lies grew frequent and clumsy. When Ilana confronted me with a shocking credit card bill, one I'd hidden, opened in secret to funnel betting funds, my heart nearly stopped. Panic surged like drowning, but survival instinct kicked in. I lied again. It was a deposit for a surprise anniversary trip to Hawaii, a romantic memory in the making. Her doubt melted into, and she apologized for questioning me. Holding her soft frame, breathing in her shampoo's scent, I felt only a barren chill. I wasn't just losing money, I was losing my soul. I started borrowing from colleagues, starting with Frank, the laptop-bragging physics teacher. I fed him a sob story about a cousin's emergency surgery. He lent me $5,000 without hesitation. I felt not gratitude, but a sick self-loathing for exploiting his kindness. That shame vanished the next time a game opened. Nothing buries moral unease like the lure of breaking even. Then I crossed an unforgivable line. I remember that Friday afternoon clearly. I was supposed to pick up Silas at 4 p.m. His soccer team had a crucial playoff game, and I was his biggest fan. But I was glued to an NBA game, having bet everything in my account, even money from a high-interest online loan. Each play twisted my gut. Time stretched and warped, blocking out the world. When I snapped out of my daze, it was dark. I raced to the school, finding an empty field, just the wind rattling the nets. Silas sat with his coach on the cold bleachers. The coach's disappointed look cut deeper than any words. On the drive home, Silas stared silently out the window at passing lights. His silence sliced me like a blade. That night, drowning in guilt and self-hatred, I made my worst call. I opened the college fund we'd built for Silas over years. Staring at that number, our hopes crystallized. I told myself I'd borrow a bit, win back today's losses, then double it for Silas's future. I'd quit for good, be the best father. In that warped logic, I robbed my son's future. That was the first step into the abyss. After that, I spiraled. The college fund vanished. I systematically wrecked our finances. Without telling Ilana, I took a second mortgage on our house, forging her signature to secure hundreds of thousands. That money didn't last a week, swallowed by bets I can't even recall. I cashed out my 401k, our retirement safety net, watching it shrink from penalties and taxes before tossing the rest into the greedy void. My phone buzzed 24/7 with collection calls, their tone shifting from polite to threatening. I lived in constant fear of doorbells, unknown numbers. From a respected teacher, I became a cowering debtor. My life was a house eaten hollow by termites, still standing but rotten inside, waiting for the final straw. It came when collectors called Ilana at the hospital. She'd just finished an 8-hour surgery, exhausted. They gave her my name, our address, and a debt figure she couldn't fathom. She hung up calmly, but when I got home, she sat in the dark living room, a statue of despair. On the table lay loan papers, maxed out credit card bills, and the forged mortgage contract. She'd found my hidden kingdom of lies. It crumbled overnight. She didn't cry or accuse. Her eyes, usually warm, held only a dead void. She made me sit and say the number aloud. $5 million. It sounded absurd, unreal, enough to buy half our street. In under 2 years, I'd turned it to smoke. Ilana sat in silence so long I thought time had stopped. Then she stood, walked to the bedroom, and closed the door. That night, we were worlds apart. The next morning, I woke on the couch to an eerily quiet house. The bedroom was pristine, Ilana's clothes and belongings gone. Silas's room was empty too, save for his copy of The Great Gatsby on his desk. On a torn page from his history notebook, in his neat handwriting, was a line we'd discussed in class. "Dad, we read Gatsby together." So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. I think I finally get it. My tears came then, a belated funeral for my failed life. Now I'm in this lightless, cheap apartment, bought with the scraps of everything I sold off. It's so quiet I hear my heartbeat, a cold timer counting down. Sometimes I jolt awake at night, drenched in sweat, thinking for a split second I'm back in my 4:30 p.m. classroom, sunlight on the lectern, students scribbling notes. I clear my throat to start on Roosevelt's New Deal, but my hand finds not chalk but a cold phone. The screen lights up, red and green numbers crawling like bloodthirsty ants, trapping me in a cage of greed and despair. Those digits, a spinning black hole, have sucked in everything warm and worthwhile. The fireplace's glow, Thanksgiving turkey, Ilana's warmed milk, Silas's laughter on the lawn, chalk marks on the blackboard, all gone. It's just me and this overheating phone, 2 chunks of cosmic ice, unable to warm each other. My life proves Silas's quote. I rode hard, but a stronger force pushed me back, mercilessly, to a past more broken than where I started.